What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, putting America first, second, and third. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, December 10th, 2020. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. We have a lot to talk about today. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, we're going to do news until we run out of news, and then we're going to open the phone lines for your comments, questions, observations, and opinions. So let's get right on into it. First of all, happy Hanukkah to all of our listeners of the Jewish faith here. This is the start of the Festival of Lights, and so happy holidays to all of you out there. And getting into the news here, right now there are 18 states that are supporting the Texas lawsuit regarding, reversing the Biden win. They're basically seeking to disallow the electors from these battleground swing states where so much election fraud has been documented here. This is coming from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. And I noticed that as soon as this came out, he has now been hit with an indictment for securities fraud. So they're already out trying to destroy him. And, we all know politics is a dirty business, but I don't think that we have ever seen it really as dirty as this is. And so this apparently is on the docket at the Supreme Court. It will go up there. The 18 states are Missouri, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, right here in Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Montana, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, West Virginia, Arizona. And I need to go up here and look at my little cheat sheet here regarding, MS, which is Mississippi. That would make sense. Okay, so those are the states that have signed on here. This is going to be the biggest and most controversial Supreme Court case since Bush versus Gore back in 2000. And it will decide who is president for the next 4 years. Now, we are starting to get some word regarding that Scytl server that was obtained in a raid by the U.S. Army in Frankfurt, apparently from a CIA facility, and it apparently had the actual vote numbers stored in its memory, which showed that President Trump had 410 electoral votes on election night. Now, that is a landslide, and that's why they hit the panic button and started bringing in boxes and suitcases of ballots, and it just went over the top, and everybody picked up on what they were doing there. Now, Sidney Powell has dropped another bombshell and says the election software that was used to steal the 2020 elections has actually been around for years, and it's been used to steal House, Senate, and gubernatorial races. And so, and again, nothing new about election fraud, but never on an industrial scale like this. It just hasn't been here. Apparently, down in Georgia, it has come on out that there's actually been a years-long court battle over the Dominion voting machines and their security flaws and weak testing. And apparently, among the many issues raised was the inability to accurately audit the Dominion systems to verify that votes were cast as intended. And apparently, experts demonstrated to the court how the Dominion system inherently prevented the successful use of risk-limiting audits, a method employed by Georgia during previous elections. So cybersecurity experts provided evidence that Dominion's QR system wasn't secure, was subject to duplication, and that the ability to generate fake QR codes existed. A nationally recognized cybersecurity expert also found during Georgia's August 2020 elections, servers at 2 county elections offices he visited enabled unsafe remote access to the system through a variety of means, including the use of flash drives. They're just wide open to fraud there. A new witness has come forward in Michigan saying that a van full of ballots showed up at 3:30 in the morning after the deadline of approximately 50,000 ballots, and the van had Janice Winfrey's name on it. So more and more people are coming forward. More and more states are standing up. This is definitely going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight to the very end here. Trump, of course, has another lawsuit going down in Georgia, and apparently the main points being made there include 66,000 underage voters and 2,500 felons who are not allowed to vote under Georgia law. Okay, now the Georgia Senate has issued a statement on election fraud challenging Raffensperger's deal with the Democrats on ballot signatures. So it's starting to really unravel on them. It really is. Now, Republican Senator Ron Johnson has said yesterday he was open to objecting formally to the Electoral College results, and he has scheduled a Senate Homeland Security Committee meeting on examining the irregularities in the 2020 election. I wish they'd stop using that word irregularities. It's fraud. We all know that's exactly what happened, and irregularities may be the politically correct word, but I'm not feeling particularly politically correct about this whole situation. More than 24 House Republicans signed a letter to Attorney General Barr urging him to appoint a special counsel to probe the 2020 elections. And apparently this letter was sent by Representative Lance Gooden. This was sent just 2 days after Barr had made that statement. The Justice Department had not uncovered evidence of widespread voter fraud that would alter the outcome of the election. And of course, the Justice Department then backtracked and said, well, we're not done looking, which, you know, it was a ridiculous, reckless statement for Barr to make. And I think it's wounded his credibility past the point of healing. Now, let's talk a little bit about Hunter Biden. Joe Biden is out there saying he's proud of Hunter. And this is following the announcement that federal prosecutors are running a tax investigation regarding Hunter's Chinese business dealings. And apparently, the federal prosecutors paused the investigation rather than have it affect the election. Now, it turns out this investigation began back in 2018. And the corporate media sat on it all this time to protect the Biden family. Now, just imagine that all of these scandals had hit Donald Trump Jr. It would be headline news everywhere. All those dirty pictures from the laptop would be just plastered all over TV with the naughty bits pixelated out. And they would have made a big deal about it. But they sat on this, you know, for almost 2 years here. Tucker Carlson did a segment chastising the social media giants for suppressing the Hunter Biden story to protect Joe's chances at the presidency. And remember, there was a poll that was done a few weeks back where a lot of Democrats said if they had known about this Hunter Biden scandal and the Burisma and the child porn on the laptop, they would not have voted for Biden. They would have joined the legions of what are called walkaway Democrats, who are now starting to go public saying, I don't know who voted for Joe Biden, but I'm a Democrat and I didn't vote for him. Apparently, Pollock over at the New York Post basically was saying, well, he was responding to the New York Post's blacklisting by social media, and he's saying that this big tech cover-up is now collapsing with the admission by corporate media of this Hunter Biden investigation. And it was on Fox News yesterday, and even CNN, the Communist News Network, had to give it some airtime today. And he's, you know, going back and talking about how the Post had their account shut down for 2 weeks. And, you know, the bias and deception and cover-up by corporate and social media is there on full display for everybody to see. And they appear to have no shame about it. They're absolutely shameless. And they seem to have forgotten the first responsibility of any media, which is to serve the public interest by being a watchdog on government corruption, not help cover it up. Go on back to the Pentagon Papers decision by the Supreme Court. The media is there to serve the governed, not the governors. And that's a principle that all true media people need to hang on to. Getting on to other non-election political news here, apparently Republican lawmakers are calling for Eric Swalwell, to have him removed from the Intelligence Committee because of this dust-up with this Chinese spy. And apparently Swalwell was taken in by a honey trap. And now he's asking, you know, what did Nancy Pelosi know about this? And when did she know? Because remember, she had her own Chinese spying scandal a while back when it turned out there was a Chinese spy on her staff. Now, we're getting this story. This is coming on out of blabber.buzz. Now, do you remember back during the Obama years where the IRS was weaponized and it was sicked on conservative organizations to harass them, to just absolutely crush them down? Well, apparently, according to this article, Democrats are planning on doing it again. And the House Democrats want to give the IRS $5.2 billion specifically devoted to enforcement activities. And as we said before, back in the Obama administration, they were unjustly targeting the Tea Party and other conservative groups. So it's a return to the good old, bad old days, if you will. All right, Kumail Nanjiani, who's an actor and comedian, according to some reports, apparently insulted men who supported President Donald Trump. And apparently he was reacting to an article in the left-wing publication 538 that argues that many men stuck with the president because of his macho, shrug-it-off attitude toward coronavirus. And Nanjiani came on out with the comment that traditional masculinity is a disease. Well, I got it good. What can I tell you? And no, I'm not taking a vaccine for my masculinity. Thank you very much. This one caught me. It's kind of a minor issue, but it sort of reminds us that there's the little people and then there's cops. If you remember the original Blade Runner, where they're recruiting the guy to come back into the Blade Runner unit and saying, you know, if you're not cop, you're little people. Apparently over in Ocean City, there was a sheriff's deputy, Jarrett Wise, and he got himself off the hook from 50, that's 50, child porn charges. He got no jail at all. He was given probation even before the judgment came down, and he's not going to have to register as a sex offender. Now, if you or I were caught with 50 items of child porn, we'd be on the registry, we'd be in jail, and justifiably so. Let's be honest about that. It's very, very sick behavior, but apparently if you're a police officer, you can get away with this kind of stuff. Now, this is a case of good ideas that sound good, not really working out well. Over in the District of Columbia, they launched this program called Cure the Streets, and they hired this ex-con that they said was reformed to help curb violence, and he's just been arrested and charged with murder. So, again, sounded like a good idea at the time, didn't really work out. The other day we were talking about Representative Ayanna Pressley on video encouraging violent protesters to continue to protest and even to attack Trump supporters. And, you know, she's being disciplined. She's been pulled off of all of her committees and she's facing disciplinary act. But it's worth pointing out the corporate media has not reported this at all. Okay? And so it's still going on there. Now, this is a good one here. There's an attorney, Ty Clevenger, and for the last 4 years, he has been going after the FBI regarding the death of Seth Rich. And apparently, finally, after 4 years, the FBI admits they have thousands of documents on Seth Rich and they have his laptop. So they were sitting on that. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Seth Rich was a Democratic staffer who was working on the Hillary campaign in 2016, and he was found dead near his home. Was shot multiple times. The police simply dismissed it as a botched robbery, except that Seth Rich still had his very expensive watch, his smartphone, and some gold jewelry around his neck. Doesn't sound like much of a robbery. But a lot of people started to wonder if Seth Rich was the source of all the information leaking from the Hillary campaign to WikiLeaks. Now, of course, you know, we all got the story, Russian hackers, Russian hackers, Russian hackers. But we know from the timestamps on the files at WikiLeaks that those files could not have been copied off over the internet. It would have been too slow. They had to be copied onto a high-speed flash drive and carried out the building. And as soon as Seth Rich was taking his dirt nap, the leaks to WikiLeaks stopped. And the FBI has been sitting on the evidence for 4 years. Okay, let's talk a little bit about COVID-19 here. It's all coming apart out there. Over in PrincipiaScientific.com, apparently Dr. Anthony Fauci has admitted in a newly resurfaced video that the PCR test, which is one of the most widely used tests for COVID-19, can pick up harmless fragments of the virus, leading to false positive cases that result in an overstatement of the threat. In other words, the test tests positive if you've got bits of the dead virus in your body. For example, if you had coronavirus and your own body's immune system defeated it, the PCR test would still pick up a positive. And apparently, this was last July, and he did an episode of This Week in Virology, hosted by Columbia University, and basically admitted the PCR tests are very much flawed. And they're overstating the number of people who really have the disease. All right. Now, there was this publisher that put out a paper, the Corman-Drosten paper, which was sort of a motivating force for COVID-19 testing. And apparently, it focused on using the PCR technique to detect COVID. Peer-reviewing scientists found 10 fatal problems in this scientific report, and the publisher is now considering rescinding the paper. Okay, here's another good story. This one's out of Sons of Liberty. Apparently, over in Cambridge University, they performed COVID 1984 screenings at the end of November through the first week of December of this year. And they discovered of the more than 9,000 students that tested with the PCR test, tested positive, every single one of them, 100%, were a false positive. Every single one of them here. All righty, little reminder, we mentioned this yesterday, but it's worth mentioning again. Pfizer Pharmaceuticals have already had severe negative reactions to their vaccine on the first day of its use in England, and they're now telling administrators of the COVID vaccine to keep resuscitation equipment close by in case the people getting the vaccine go into anaphylactic shock, which can be fatal. You can just simply stop breathing at that point. So it's already turning out to be a very dangerous and toxic vaccine. Federal Member of Parliament Craig Kelly is saying it is immoral at this stage to begin injecting Australian children with experimental COVID-19 vaccine, describing it as child abuse. We're going to take a break for commercial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network and Independent Media, we are in a war for the future of the Republic. We're in a war for the future of honest and truthful reporting to the people about what's going on. We're in a war for honest, verifiable elections, and we need your help. And it is the Christmas season, the time of giving. And so, again, a reminder, the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. Okay, getting on back to the news here, I'm seeing on Fox that apparently the COVID relief bill is still being stalled, and the Republicans keep making concessions, and the Democrats, primarily led by Nancy Pelosi, are still holding out for a whole bunch of liberal pork, including bailouts for poorly run states and cities, liberal-run states and cities that have managed to put themselves in serious financial trouble, none of which has anything to do with COVID-19 or the incredible economic damage these lockdowns have done to ordinary Americans and small businesses. Now, in the weeks leading up to the start of the vaccine campaign in Great Britain, Pfizer stocks were climbing. It was a sure bet. People were hopping on board. But apparently, following the release of the news of the Bell's palsy and other problems that are coming from these vaccines, Pfizer stocks dropped 2%. And so people are already starting to lose confidence that this is really going to work. All righty, a story coming out of UNS.com, and it's talking about the attack on informed consent. Now, informed consent is mandated by several treaties. It's mandated by the United Nations. It's mandated under the Nuremberg Accords. And the idea is that you cannot have medical treatment done to you without your informed consent. And so the plan right now is to find some way to sort of coerce your consent, to get that needle into your arm. And the current plan seems to be to get businesses, corporations, airlines, and educational institutions to do all the dirty work and simply say, if you don't have the shot, you cannot come on in here. And that, of course, is definitely contrary to the idea of an informed consent, if in fact that is being coerced here. All right, here's an interesting little story, and it came out of UNS.com again, and it's titled White Privilege in Action. And what they're talking about is up in the state of Oregon, where the population is 85% white and only 1.9% black. Apparently, there is a state coronavirus program that granted $62 million in federal funds to black people only to get treatment and vaccines. And it's like nobody's really thinking what's fair anymore as, basically placating the Black Lives Matter and Antifa people to try and get the riots to slow down, which so far apparently haven't. In fact, there was a story that came through earlier today that some of the more militant protesters around Portland are starting to stockpile weapons, things like the little tire puncturing strips, various things like that. So it looks like things could still get very tense there. And if the Supreme Court does in fact grant Donald Trump a second term in office, there is going to be violence all across this country, and you better be prepared for it right now. Okay, here is a story. This is a little bit of a flashback. It came from Health and Money News here, and it's talking about a new documentary produced by Scott Miller, directed by Scott Miller, and it's talking to military personnel who dealt with the anthrax vaccine. And in the documentary, they make the claim that more soldiers died from the anthrax vaccine than actually died in combat in both Afghanistan and Iraq combined. So it's an ugly situation out there. And it's huge amounts of money on the line. Which gets us to our next story here. There's this lady, Brandy Vaughn. She's a former pharmaceutical insider. She's an ex-Merck sales executive. We've talked about her before. And she's been this, whistleblower on big pharma and vaccines. And she was found dead, unfortunately, by her 9-year-old son earlier this week. The cause of death is not being revealed. But apparently she did a public statement a year ago saying that she would never commit suicide. So if you had billions of dollars in vaccine sales on the line, what would you do? All right, we got to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here, and turning to the international news here. Apparently, Donald Trump has secured another peace deal between Israel and Morocco. And apparently Morocco is now the 4th Arab country to move toward normalization with Israel. And apparently part of the deal includes U.S. recognition of the disputed territory of Western Sahara as part of Morocco. Over in France, as you know, they've had a huge amount of turmoil and protests there over the lockdowns and corruption and various other things. And French General Pierre de Villiers, the former chief of staff of the French armed forces, is saying that he thinks France could be heading for a civil conflict, primarily due to Islamist radicals and growing urban violence. Now, the general made headlines in 2017 by quitting as Armed Forces Chief of Staff regarding the army budget here. But apparently, according to the general, the social climate in France has been tense well before the COVID-19 virus. The lockdowns are just making things worse. Over at the United Nations, the General Assembly voted 153-6 to call on Israel to renounce possession of nuclear weapons. And the resolution calls on Israel not to develop, produce, test, or otherwise acquire nuclear weapons. The problem there is that Israel won't actually officially acknowledge that they have them. Alrighty, now the U.S. House has overwhelmingly passed the $740 billion National Defense Authorization Act. They are defying Donald Trump's threat of a veto. They think they have a veto-proof majority in the House. They're less certain about that in the Senate. And of course, the big sticking point for Donald Trump was the repeal of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, or the Communications, it was one of those Communications Acts, that basically indemnified social media from the kinds of lawsuits that traditional corporate media has to deal with. Apparently over in Virginia City rather, the school board there is going to remove the names of Thomas Jefferson and George Mason because they hurt the feelings of African American students. And again, this is the erasing of our history. So we forget who we were to make it easier to tell us who we're supposed to be getting into the future here. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show, but this article is more about it. This is coming from Tethasta.com. Leftist militants are on their 3rd day of occupying several residential blocks in Portland, and they have a foreclosed house, and they've stockpiled weapons, homemade spike strips, and armed guards at the entrances of what they have declared the autonomous zone. The city's police chief said they will use force if necessary to end the occupation. Okay. All righty. Getting on back here. Rush Limbaugh has verbalized something that I think a lot of us are already thinking about, that America could be trending towards secession. And Limbaugh believes the political landscape in America makes it possible that we could see the nation break up, primarily between the conservative and liberal areas. Of course, Limbaugh won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He's been around in broadcasting for a very, very long time. And apparently he made this observation just yesterday during his broadcast. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open the lines. And that's area code 512-248-8252. Okay, now yesterday, Elon Musk and SpaceX finally got their Starship prototype to launch, and it launched, it reached altitude, it came down, but apparently something happened just when it was touching down for the landing and exploded. Elon Musk says it's still a successful test because they got 99% of the way there, which is not going to be reassuring to people that are trying to ride the thing, but I'm sure they're going to work it out because they had a lot of these same failures when they were dealing with the Falcon, and they're probably going to make it work. But Elon is out there saying, Mars, here we come. He's apparently very serious about building a colony on Mars here. Now, on the lighter side of things, SpaceX has launched its 100th Falcon 9 rocket and used its newly upgraded Dragon capsule to bring Christmas gifts to the astronauts on the International Space Station. This is the first time SpaceX has had two capsules in orbit at the same time. The other one delivered 4 astronauts to the station in November, so good for them on that. All right, we're going to start taking a few phone calls. Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
I hope you're well.
Yes.
Lady Claire.
Lady Claire's fine.
So I just made a donation to RBN, and I'm a Canadian.
Yes.
And I think if I can do it, I think anyone can.
Yes.
Anyone that's listening in right now, anyone that listens to RBN, period. I've been listening to you for a long time. I've been phoning in for about 6 or 7 years. I remember John in Barbados.
Yes.
You know, Jesus, I wish he would. I wish he could call in. You know, I'd love to hear what he has to say about all this nonsense.
That would be a long.
But anyway,
call.
I think
that would be a long call. I'm afraid.
Yeah, that costs a lot of money. There has to be a lot of RBN donations to come in to hear that one. Just in case anybody didn't hear me the first time. So, you know, up in Canada here, you know, we're still all of these things that are happening with this vaccination in the UK, the things that are going wrong, and they're going to go wrong, is not even broadcast here. Instead, where I live, if you walk into any place, now they're asking you if you have any of the symptoms, and I'm getting sick and tired of this crap. Because this is like it started all over again. Even before the masks were mandatory, and since masks were mandatory, nothing is flattened at all.
No.
So what does that tell you? That it's not just airborne; it also lives on surfaces, and you know all viruses live on surfaces for a certain amount of time.
Yes, they do.
Cleaned up, disinfected, whatever's done, right?
Yes.
So. What I think is going on here is they're gearing us up for papers, please.
Yes, they are.
Which
Absolutely.
Is, do you have proof of vaccination?
Right.
Oh, you know it, Mike. You know it. It's happening up here. It's happening all over the world. I guarantee it's happening all over the world. It's sad. It's very sad. And I have to, I really hope what's going on with the Supreme Court actually takes hold and happens, because if not, it's not just the United States, it's the whole world. Donald Trump was holding the whole world back from this globalist takeover. Or maybe he wasn't, but that's how it seems. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Dustin, call in, man. I want to hear you. You alive?
Yeah, he hasn't been around for a while here. You know, maybe he just got sick and tired of us. Anyway, now
a lot of people trashed him, right? Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, maybe his feelings are hurt, and he'll call back in when he feels a little more forgiving.
Everybody gets over hurt feelings. I mean, it's easy. You just look on the bright side. It could be raining.
Yes, it could be. All righty. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. All right, we're going to switch to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking the call. I had a couple different topics. Sorry to switch around, but the story Tucker Carlson did about the Chinese official talking about connections at the highest levels of America.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of nationaljustice.com, but they did a great critique of that on nationaljustice.com because Tucker edited that out stuff where the official basically called out Jews by name, said it was a dual Israeli-American official living in China, and they've been working with them for about 40 years, and the connections on Wall Street were mostly Jewish. So, of course, Tucker's going to not say that, but he's going to dog whistle and kind of get people to, question things, I guess, is his strategy. But anyway, that was a good article on that issue. I disagree with the last caller. I think Trump is definitely part of the problem. Joel Scalzon did a great interview on Rents last night where, the states suing the federal government might seem like a good strategy, but really what it does is it changes the case from being about fraud to being about some technical issue. And so it's kind of like Trump, they're already throwing in the towel on the fraud stuff and just going for some technicality.
Well, I don't think that's entirely the case here. I mean, the lawsuit that's coming out of Texas is based entirely on the detected fraud in those battleground states. And they're not going to the federal government. They're going to the Supreme Court to request that those states' electors be disallowed, which would do one of two things. Either it would swing the Electoral College back to Trump or wind up throwing the whole thing into the House of Representatives.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I do hope this happens, but I thought it was more about the state legislatures weren't allowed to change the voting rules as far as like the
what they're saying is it was the governors who were changing the voting rules without the state legislature. The state legislatures want to send their own electors, who are all going to be mostly for Trump. That's a whole separate set of lawsuits that are going on within the states. They haven't gone to federal court on those just yet, but they might wind up in the Supreme Court as well.
Or they could just say, sorry, we're not going to hear that case, right? I mean,
well, the one from Texas is on the docket. The one from Texas is on the docket, and as far as I know, so is the one regarding Pennsylvania.
Okay. All right, well, we'll see how that goes. I just want, you've had a lot of callers that were actually critical of Trump, and then now they're saying he should declare martial law and all this stuff. And this COVID, you talk about money junkies. I feel like Trump is just a fraud and a money junkie. I think his leadership on this vaccine, where he's bringing up the military will distribute it. He's the one to speed up the approval process of this vaccine. So and
if it does prove to be as harmful as the early results from Britain would indicate, it's going to come back to haunt him. But Dan, you need to understand that all of these people talking about martial law, which I hope does not happen, but going to the Supreme Court and everything, it's not about Donald Trump. It's not about Joe Biden. It is about whether we, the people, still have honest and fair elections by which we maintain control over this government. If we don't have that, then we're living in a dictatorship. And so the issues here have gone way beyond Donald Trump himself.
Well, we know Trump did lose a lot of his base. He one, by basically dog whistling. He was a populist about securing the borders, bringing jobs back to China.
Mm-hmm.
But
bringing them from China.
Like his failure. Yeah, he failed on almost all those issues. And if you look at if the voting numbers are correct, he lost a lot of the white male support that he had. He might have gained a few more black people.
Yeah, but if those voting numbers from the seized server in Germany are accurate, then Trump won by a landslide. And it may not be that people were all that happy with Donald Trump. It's just they were scared out of their minds at Biden and Harris.
Well, and I heard that story. Is that the story where they had some supposed firefight that was like one branch of the deep state against the other or something?
The armed forces against CIA, which has a long history of mucking about in other people's elections. So it should not come as a surprise that this was happening.
Well, I've heard also that whole story is just another story that's kind of like the guy on Alex Jones saying it's all a big sting operation, and I guess we'll see. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. But we're on our way to the Supreme Court, and I certainly hope the Supreme Court upholds the right of the American people to have honest, verifiable, and fair elections. And unfortunately, if they do, we can count on the liberals just running amok in this country. Think about what they did after Hillary lost in 2016, multiply it by about 20, and that's what it's going to be like in the streets of America.
Well, real quick, with like Rush Limbaugh said, civil war. I don't think so.
No,
there's not. You can't show me. Yeah, but there's not a big difference between liberal and conservative. All these Republicans always just cuck out. There's never. So there's not going to be blood in the streets over.
There's a huge difference between liberals and conservatives, and I'll give you a good example. I grew up in a conservative part of the country, and in public school we were taught gun safety. Today in liberal schools you've got drag queen story hour. I think that's a real obvious difference in mindset.
Yeah, but we're not going to go to war over that, and I guarantee you these Republicans, when it comes down to like welfare or affirmative action, half of them cuck out anyway, so.
Well, affirmative action has failed to achieve its original stated goals, and so it may be time to look at some new solutions. And I understand your perception and where you're coming from, but as I said earlier, the issues in this have gone way beyond Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and it's come down to the right of the American people to maintain control over the government through fair, honest elections. That's really what's at stake here.
Well, I agree, and it did look fishy to me, that night on Michigan when Trump had it, and all of a sudden, 100,000 votes come in for Biden.
Yep.
So I'm not saying it's definitely not fishy, but I still haven't seen them present tons of, like the story about the computer program with this, that they can change votes. Anyway, I hear the music.
Okay,
but
yeah.
We'll see.
Don't forget that Georgia videotape. That was pretty damning evidence. We got to take a break for commercials.
Right.
Back with more phone calls after these few words. Welcome to our show here, and we're going to go back to the phones to Don in Arizona. Hello, Don. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I want to talk about masks a little bit. The mask situation.
Okay.
I still believe that the best thing is any individual. The masks are slavery. It's if you're wearing the mask willingly, you're willingly assisting in your own slavery. And,
yes.
It's a step two. The first step was the deal when they made you go take your shoes off and all that and grope your testicles and everything at the airport, but at that time it was a lot easier. They had you funneled into a line. You're going right through this line here, and
yes.
If you want to get on that airplane, you have to go through this area here. There's no way you can go around it. But here in this is different. You're going to the store. You have a choice. You don't have to wear a mask. You can order anything you want online, which it might cost you a little bit more money, but on the other hand, not really. It doesn't cost you any more money because you're saving on gas by not going to the store. If there's no store anywhere to let you in, but a lot of the stores will let you in. Here in Arizona, what happens is the government funnels a lot of money. They actually, taxpayer money pays for a lot of this advertising and these signs they put up saying you should wear a mask and all this, but you can still walk right past the sign and go in. The people in the stores, like a Walmart, has a good business model, and a good business model is the customer's always right. They want you to come in there and buy their stuff.
Well,
and they
that used to be the business model.
It still is. I mean, Walmart lets me in. Put it that way. Okay. I think that the people that work there don't like. They're wondering, when is it all going to end? They got to wear that damn mask all day long, every day.
Yes,
That's really bad for their health. It's really bad for their health, even for a young guy. And they're coming. It's bad for their teeth. It's bad for their. They start breaking out in rashes. It's not good for their lungs. It's not good for anything. But I saw a sign, a bumper sticker yesterday that said, "In Fauci we trust." I'm thinking, wait a minute, this has to be obviously this is sarcasm, but you don't know because some people really do trust Fauci, and they say this guy was on TV yesterday, he's on TV today. He's a big shot. He's always on TV, even though he says something different, he'll change his opinion all the time. But that was
he's grandstanding. He's grandstanding. He knows this is going to make his reputation, for the rest of his life. Yes, he is.
He's an egomaniac. He just keeps on. Then they'll give him. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Something hang up or something.
No.
But that's about it. I still think, and people, I've heard this meme that real men don't wear masks, and people kind of say that like we're trying to be macho if we don't wear masks. It has nothing to do with being macho, and some of the best advocates against the mask and against lockdowns are women. And,
they are. Okay, Don, I'm sorry. I got to cut you off. We got to take a break for station identification. We have more callers waiting on the line. Some of the lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to go to Joe in Tennessee. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, well, one of the good aspects of Trump losing the election, and there's not many, is that, like the caller, not last caller, but the one before him, with his Trump's just the same. They're all just the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to see how they're all just the same, buddy. Some of your callers, they're really not like in search of the truth, Mike. They just, because I watch you like run rings around them, and they just change the subject when you catch them.
Yes.
Like that previous caller. And it's just like, I try to find the truth in things. I don't just try to get my propaganda out there. You could tell, he's got an axe to grind against Trump and Rush Limbaugh. And I just get him in there, I can see it, tries to take your smooth like he's on our side kind of thing, but calls the Republicans cucks and all that. It's really, I like your show a lot because a lot of your callers are in search of the truth, and they'll be, and me, I'm in search of the truth. And if I find that I'm wrong, I try to change to correct course because you want to have truth as the basis of your opinions and the way you think, because that's a strong, solid foundation. But this guy, it's all really propaganda, and it's very transparent,
Yes.
Just the way they bounce around and just change and go on to another topic. I don't realize. I guess it's when some people, they don't realize like that when you like lie and you like try to like get over on people that are a lot smarter than you, how like ridiculous they look, And I'm not saying that like as an egotist. I'm just saying it as like a guy that kind of has been around, and I can see through people now because of that. But the reason I wanted to call was, this whole thing with the FBI. It's really funny to like see and hear about even like guys on the right saying, "Oh, isn't it great? The FBI's looking into Hunter Biden." You know what that is, don't you? I mean, they're gonna hide all the evidence. They're gonna.
Well,
it's buried, guys. The whole Hunter Biden
look
thing
how
just
long
got
they sat on
disappeared.
Seth Rich's laptop.
I'm just saying, it's all disappeared now. It's not. The FBI is going to sit on that, and it's going to go away. It's going to be perpetually investigated, just like anything else that they want to hide. Like Seth Rich and Hillary's emails, they just went into the black hole. Everybody, So I hear people like, I don't know who was talking about, a couple different people. I think even what's his name was talking about it today. On the War Room with Steve Bannon. Oh, Hunter's laptop. And I'm sure Tucker will be talking about it tonight. Hunter's laptop. The FBI's looking into it. The FBI's looking into it. We know what that means, Mike, don't we? I mean, and they're going to look into the election too. They'll be, the FBI, it's kind of like that movie Patton, when at the end, when he's coming in and the German field marshal's aide is like burning all the papers and everything. That's what the FBI does. They have like a room like that, Yeah. They have a room where all the evidence goes and they're just throwing it into this, metal drum where they have a diesel fire, and they're just throwing all the pictures of Biden with Chinese hookers in there and all the tax forms, and that's going on. And the same thing's going on about the election. All those Smartmatic machines, they're all going into that big diesel drum just being destroyed. That's what the FBI does.
Yes.
So if anything's going to happen with this election, it's not going to be the FBI. And I've been saying it all along. It's going to be Army intelligence, probably units that are very loyal to Michael Flynn, and other groups that are going to bring this about. Now, I don't know really what's going on with that whole thing in Frankfurt, and but I really think that what they did in this election, because it was such a landslide, that's another lie that previous caller told, and you caught him on it, is that he started talking about whites not voting for Trump. Hey, buddy, the whole election was a fraud. It was a freaking landslide. Trump won in a landslide, and they had to cheat. So don't come up with these statistics about Trump and how whites don't like him because he didn't do. No, he won, and he kicked Biden's ass, and it was so bad they had to shut the election down to get the cheat to go through.
Yes,
they had to reprogram and send electron. That's what's going to do them in, was the fact that it was such a blatant cheat, and they just left so many tracks. So I'm very hopeful about what's going to happen in this. I think that, particularly watching the way Trump's acting. And I just wanted to call attention to the fact that I think it's either the 20th or the 21st, just when the winter solstice, we're going to have a conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter.
Yes, we are.
Hasn't happened in over 800 years. And I'm very curious about astrology. And because I think that, great events do happen in the sky to signal things that are going to happen on the earth. And I think that you're going to see some big fireworks for the rest of the month after
Well, there's a total solar eclipse of the sun that's going to hit in about another week, I think it is. Unfortunately, it's not going to be visible from the United States. And then, of course, we're going to have that conjunction. We've got these huge auroras right now because of this coronal mass ejection. Now, I looked last night. I couldn't see them. I'm going to look again tonight and see if I can see them. But apparently, they are reaching very, very far south, unusually so. So for people living in the northern states here, step outside, look to the north, and you may get an astronomical treat.
Yeah, not far. I saw it looked like Michigan was where it kind of cut off. But I guess if you lived up north, like Maine, I saw it was hitting into Maine and even areas of Massachusetts and Vermont. But here in Tennessee, but I got a lot of nice sky watching here in Tennessee. It's not much light pollution, and I can see all the stars. So I'm looking forward to this Star of Bethlehem that's coming on the 20th.
Yes. You may be closer than you know. You may be closer than you know, because apparently in the language that the original Old Testament was written in, there was no plural for star. And a lot of people are thinking that because they were so involved in astrology back then, that there may have been a conjunction like this one that actually represented the Christmas star, what we think of as the Christmas star today. So I don't know, maybe this heralds the second coming, if Planned Parenthood doesn't get in the way.
Yeah, it could herald some great changes. I forgot what they said the meaning of Saturn is, but there's a lot of Saturnic cults in the world. A lot of religions are actually based on Saturn. So
Well, you know, the current day for Christmas is set on top of the old Roman festival of the Saturnalia, because if you actually study the Bible, it's obvious that Jesus was born in the springtime, not the dead of winter.
Right. Well, who's going to be born now? Who knows? Or come to power? Well, we'll see. I just thought it was interesting reading about it. There's a lady on Rent that talked about it. I forgot, Madeline Dershwick or whatever, and then a guy less visible. I read his article about it today.
Yes,
and it's just interesting to me because people, some of the Christians get angry at you about it, and I said, well, how can you be angry about it? It says in the Bible itself that the three kings came, and the Star of Bethlehem was a symbol, right, in the sky. Yep. So how can you look down at it like it's some kind of evil thing to be looking into? I think no, it isn't. So anyway,
it's just fun for astronomers. I'm going to go out and try and get some pictures of it, and we do have beautiful skies here when it's clear in Santa Claus. There's very little light pollution, and so we're all going to have a little bit of fun. Anyway, Joe, thank you very much for the phone call.
Thank you.
And we're going to switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. You talk about skies. When I was living in Amarillo, Texas.
Yes.
And sometimes I would go to Mexico. That's where you see some skies and some stars. Yep. Boy, it's incredible. But anyway, it's almost as if you're in outer space. But anyway, when it comes to what's going on with the Supreme Court right now, I think it looks very promising. You've now got 21 states signed on to this, including, believe it or not, Georgia and Arizona, which are two of the states that are, Arizona is one of the states that they're talking about, but obviously there was a lot of fraud there. And Georgia is
Arizona is now officially a contested state. Apparently, the certification has been pulled back, and one of their representatives invoked part of the Arizona Constitution to basically say the election is still contested. So, the deep state may have bought off all the governors and top election officials, but much of the legislatures are starting to develop a healthy degree of spine.
Okay, but here's one thing that bothers me. I was listening to Matt Bracken earlier in InfoWars. You know who he is, right?
Yeah.
He's a former SEAL, wrote a few books, very much a patriot. And he's got a kind of a gloom and doom scenario for where this country is going. But he said that what he's afraid of is even if the Supreme Court rules the right way and sends it back to the legislatures, he's afraid the legislatures are going to be too scared. They're going to, because they're actually being threatened. They know what happened to Kemp's friend there or a relative or whatever is killed in that wasn't really a car crash. You could tell it was an explosion. It was probably a murder. And they're going to be intimidated. I hope not, Mike. I hope, and that's where patriots have to start uniting now. And whatever differences I have with Trump, I realize now he's the only thing we got at this point, at this moment. All right? He's 1,000 times better than Biden and Harris. And, you may have problems with him because, he's too much of a Zionist or too close to Zion. But I'm not worried about Zionists right now. I'm worried about this country and the fact that we're going to be destroyed if Biden is able to really steal it.
Yeah, but it's like I told Dan here, the issues right now have gone way beyond Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and it's really down to whether we, the people, have some control over the government through fair, honest, verifiable elections. And if we don't, then we're living in a dictatorship.
But we also can't let ourselves be intimidated by punks like Antifa and BLM.
Yes.
There is the American, we're the heaviest armed nation in the world. I mean, as far as civilians go, as far as private ownership of firearms go, private militias, and what else have you. Sheriff's departments, which are, actual constitutional sheriff's departments that have the ability to deputize just about everybody in their counties. We have all this going. So it's not we cannot let these clowns intimidate us.
No.
We have to make it clear, if they want a war, we'll give them a war. You know what I mean? The last thing they'll have to worry about is the corrupt FBI, who, by the way, if Trump wins, he should dismantle the FBI completely, destroy it. It's been infected. You know, you talk about a virus. It's had a virus, like it's had a virus since it started with
Yes.
the cross-dresser who started it there. Okay,
Yes.
and it's been corrupt ever since. At one time, their whole Boston office was really run by a gangster by the name of Whitey Bulger.
Whitey Bulger.
You know,
Yep.
who about Bulger, who was coincidence of coincidence was murdered in prison not that long ago, probably by Mueller's people, because he knew stuff about Mueller, who was the U.S. attorney at that time in the Boston area.
Yes.
But that's another story. But the fact of the matter is, we got to make sure they don't win. You know, Mike, I'm so disgusted with this, with all the masks and stuff like that. The dirty governor of this state passed an even more of a mask mandate, and now I found out my grandkids who are going to Catholic school. Okay, first of all, he closed most of the actual regular schools. Now they're going to have to wear masks while sitting in school. That's not right. Okay, that's child abuse. All right, these governors have to be. There has to be a way to stop these governors for what they're doing. And I don't understand either, because this state, North Carolina, is a state that it's the legislature is controlled by the Republicans, and the lieutenant governor is a Republican. He was just elected, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
Right? Why they let these little Napoleons and Hitlers do what they're doing is beyond me. Okay, they have to be put in their place, and people have to just refuse to wear the masks. They have to go say, no, we won't do it, blah, blah, blah. You're not going to make us, and don't sick your police on us, because a warning to police. Don't become an enemy of the people. You better understand something. You do not want patriotic Americans to be your enemy, okay?
Right.
You think Antifa was bad, BLM? You just keep on pissing off the populists and nationalists and whoever else, and you really will have a war on your hands. And that's the sheriff's department, of course, for the most part, Middle America are pretty good. Not in this county, because I found out this is a pretty liberal county, but most parts of the country, the sheriff's departments are pretty good. They know that they're elected directly by the people, and I think a lot of them, if not hopefully most of them, understand their powers under posse comitatus, that they could form, basically citizen posses,
Yes.
deputized citizens very quickly. And this is the stuff that might become necessary, no matter who's the president. Because if Trump becomes president, there's no question there's going to be tremendous violence.
Yes.
You know that's going to happen. They're going to throw a tantrum. But we, the people, got to make sure that they're not going to get away with it. And as far as secession goes, the thing to make it very difficult is, take, for instance, a state like New York wanted to secede. Right?
Yes.
Upstate New York would not want to go along with that. Only New York City and the surrounding areas might want to go along with that. The same thing if you go to California, Oregon, and Washington.
Yes.
The only places that really want to secede are the cities along the coast. So how you deal with it, I don't know. Better, it might be better to just surround these cities and make sure that the people stay where they're supposed to be. If they do come out, you got to know who's coming out, whether they're enemies of the country, whether they want to cause trouble, or whether they're good people who just want to escape from these places. Because these cities are some of the biggest problems in this country. You see what happened in this election. Most of these things happen in big cities, in states that were basically the average people in Michigan are very good people. The average people in Georgia are very good people. The same thing with Wisconsin. It's these cities, these big cities, these corrupt cities that have been corrupt for many, many years, but they're just becoming more corrupt as time goes on. They're mostly they're all Democratic controlled, And the Democratic Party is not the party that you and me remember, Mike. Okay,
Yeah.
It's not the party of the JFKs or the Hubert Humphreys or I'm thinking even Jimmy Carter. It's not the parties of Jimmy Carter anymore. Okay, this is the part. These are radical, not even socialists. These are radical communists.
Yes.
Who basically want to totally change this country.
They want to
They
turn
don't
us
care
into
about
the
it.
new Soviet Union.
Exactly. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about any of that stuff.
Yes.
And as far as the globalists go, these billionaires, they love it because they want to stir up trouble because it makes it. They think it's going to make it easier for them to dominate. If you remember, if you look at the Soviet Revolution, at the Russian Revolution before it became the Soviet Union, Trotsky had his biggest help in the United States from international bankers. One a Rothschild agent by the name of Schiff, Jacob Schiff.
Yes.
I personally believe he's related to Adam Schiff. I can't find anything for proof there, but I'm pretty sure. And he was one of the founders of the Fed, also the Federal Reserve. And he was also most the Rockefellers liked him, and so did the Morgans. Okay, and if you look at Lenin was actually helped by German bankers.
Yes.
Matter of fact, they put him in a train through Germany into Russia, okay, during the revolution. So these international billionaires, these criminals, these who I believe should have their money taken from them. I think they use it as weapons. George Soros, Gates, and many others. They need to have that money because they want to stir up the trouble because it makes it easier for them to get control. And you know what they want to do? They want to get rid of most of us. That's what these vaccines are about.
All right. Well, listen, Mark, I got to let you go. I'm sorry. We got to take a break for commercial. We got a lot of people waiting on the phone line, and I'm going to get to you all. So thank you for waiting patiently, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go right back to the phone to Melissa in Maryland. Melissa, thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind today?
Okay, well, you're always worth the wait. Hi there. My question for you today concerns federal legislation. And I think the answer to this is no, because I've put in about 5 hours in it already. But let me go ahead and ask you that if you're in Hawaii, right? Hawaii,
No, not anymore.
Hawaii.
Not anymore. I'm in Indiana. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's just, because I think Tulsi is a representative in Hawaii. But anyway, I voted for Tulsi, even though she didn't have a chance in hell. I voted for her. So my question is, if somebody has an idea for federal legislation, okay, I know that the patent system exists to acknowledge somebody if they have like an invention idea, and the patent system exists so that they will receive recognition for that. But I'm kind of wondering whether or not if we are stifling federal legislation ideas, because if you were to write to your House or the Senate with your legislation idea and it actually became law, do you know whether you would get any acknowledgement for doing that, or would you have to publicize it yourself that was indeed your idea that actually became law?
Well, there would be no acknowledgement of where the idea really came from, and by the time it worked its way through the political machinery, it would probably be so mutated you wouldn't recognize it anyway. But there is no way to protect authorship. The only thing I could possibly suggest is that you actually copyright the letter that you send to your representative or a senator with the idea, which becomes your proof that it was your idea. What you can do with it after that, I don't know. But for me, anytime I suggest anything to the government, anytime I suggest anything to the government, I get ignored. But just seeing it actually work out and help people would be adequate for me. And I really wouldn't care if my name was on it or not.
Well, I mean, I guess, see, the other aspect of this, which is not acknowledged, which is going to have to be addressed, is that if you take a look at the U.S. House website, I'm not sure whether the Senate is set up like this or not, but I have observed it with the U.S. House, that you're kind of banned from writing somebody unless they're your representative, if you're outside of their district, then they won't even take it. I mean, you can send it by postal mail, but if you want to use their website, then you're not going to be able to do that unless you're within their district, so you can't get a change of opinion, and you can't get an appeal to what somebody else has said. And so just with all of these things, I mean, and I guess the other aspect of this is that if you don't vote for your representative and you don't condone them being in office, then you wouldn't want to hand something on to them that would cause them to be able to get reelected. But so you're telling me that you don't know of a piece of federal legislation that allows for the ideal originator to be recognized? Because to me that stifles progress if that is the case.
I don't know of anything. I do know that occasionally the individual legislators, may say, I got this idea from XYZ over in this city, when they're making a speech. But by the way, you can directly email senators and representatives. And as a matter of fact, one of the articles that we have on the front of whatreallyhappened.com is a list of email addresses of the senators and representatives in these battleground states. So you can mass email your opinion about this whole election fiasco to them. So you can get around that blockade.
Well, okay, let me just tell you that in Maryland, the way that the House is set up, the way that I think that I went through all 8 of them, but the way that I think that they're all set up in Maryland in the U.S. House is that if you're outside of their district, then, it's not set up so that you can write them if you're outside of the district. And that maybe not every state is set up like that. But I noticed that about Maryland, and shame on them for doing that. But I did notice that.
It makes a lot of sense here because the representatives are supposed to represent their district, and not represent and otherwise, they'd be getting tons and tons of irrelevant email that would swamp their office. And so I think it's actually a very reasonable thing for them to be doing. If I were ever a representative, I would want to be hearing from the people in my district only. In order to try and do the best that I could for them.
Well, no, I'm just saying that it's okay to need a change of pace once in a while is what I was getting at. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so your suggestion of a way to work around this then is to copyright the actual letter that is sent to be able to document that it was sent.
To be able to document the fact that it was your idea. I don't know that you'll be able to do anything with it, but that's the only thing I can think of. Anyway, Melissa, we have to take another commercial break. Thank you for the phone call. We got more callers waiting online, and we will be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go right back to the phones here to a non-attorney spokesperson from Anytown, USA. So, hello, Non. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I went into the election totals in 2016, and I found out that Hillary Clinton won about 62 million votes, and Donald Trump got about, she got 65, and Trump got 62. But Trump won in 2016 because Trump won the Electoral College.
Yes, now, that's the rules that everybody agreed to play by.
Okay, now it gets strange, though. What happened in this election is that Trump got 85 million, and what happened is that Biden got 82 million, but he's supposed to have won the Electoral College. But the implication is that 40 million more people voted in 2020 than voted in 2016, and that is not physically possible. So my request is the next time you talk to Rudolph Giuliani, you should use that arithmetic to just, we need to throw this election out, and we need to repeat it with people walking into polling places and none of this mail-in ballot nonsense.
Well, we also need to get some way to count the votes that does not involve these Smartmatic and Dominion machines. It's unfortunately not something that can be done quickly, and I don't think the Supreme Court is going to see a do-over of the election as a possible remedy to the situation here. But absolutely, if Trump does prevail here, I, for one, am going to be pounding on the doors of the White House saying it is time to fix this election system mess because as Sidney Powell came out and mentioned it, they've been using this same system to rig elections for House members and senators and governors for years now, and it has got to go.
Well, I voted by mail, and I almost vomited when I got my ballot, because there were language instructions in like about 10 different languages. And I can't figure out, how do you vote in an election if you weren't born in this country? How does someone come here from a foreign country and vote in our elections? There's no way a foreigner is going to vote Republican. That's just, it's so grossly improper. It's just, you know what I'm saying? There's so many strange things going on now that it's mind-boggling.
Well, somebody who's gone through the citizenship process and become a naturalized citizen, they are allowed to vote, and that is the law of the land. And presumably while they're living here and becoming citizens, they learn enough of English where they can read the candidate's propaganda and make an informed decision. The big problem that we had this last election is that apparently millions of illegal immigrants voted, and they voted Democrat because the Democrats are promising to take stuff away from the legal citizens and give it to the illegals.
Okay, but you are talking about immigration as if we needed people. We have a $1.5 trillion student debt. We have 17 million college-educated people out of work, and their jobs have all been handed over to foreigners. So you're basically saying we got to get them here and we got to buy them all.
No, I didn't say that at all. I said once they're here, they're allowed to vote. I'm in agreement that we have far too much immigration, that the H-1B visas are being abused, and it's being used to drive down wages and salaries for the American worker down to the same level that you find in the third world elsewhere on the globe, which they have to do before they can knock down the national barriers. But I'm not in favor of increased immigration. I'm just saying that those who come here and go through the process, they are allowed to vote. Well,
you see my point. It's just we're talking about these immigrants as if they were a gift from heaven and we can't live without them. And the truth is, we don't even have fresh water to drink in this country. We're way overpopulated. Now, I want to make a quick request for tomorrow's show. I've been thinking the way I could get a girlfriend is if I wore orange makeup like Donald Trump, but I don't know where to buy orange makeup, and I don't know how to put it on. Now, maybe you and your wife could do a YouTube video where she could put orange makeup on you and, sort of give us a lecture on how to do it and where to get the darn stuff, because I can't find it. I've looked in Walmart.
Darn, we were at the cosmetics section of Walmart just this morning, and I don't think we're going to head back there tomorrow morning. So we're going to have to put that idea on hold. But if I can come up with a convincing way to dye my face orange, maybe I'll run for president again.
You'll probably win. That's what it takes.
Okay.
That's what happened in the Nixon-Kennedy election. Nixon refused to wear makeup, and Kennedy had himself made up, and Nixon often said that that's why he lost, is because Kennedy was a lot prettier than him. And I think that's true. Kennedy was just very pretty. You can't take away from him.
Actually, Nixon did have makeup, but it was very, very poorly done. And the funny thing is, people who listened to that debate on the radio thought Nixon had won, but the people who watched on TV thought Kennedy had won. And let's be honest, Kennedy was a good-looking guy. There's no two ways about it. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that political history teaches us. Anyway, Nan, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go now and switch over to Marco in Alabama. Hello, Marco. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
All right, man. First and foremost, some of you people better figure it out. I mean, unlike the Democrats, the Republican Party in 2016, I believe, went through a reformation. When we refused people like Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, and countless others as president, This party went through changes. This party will no longer accept amnesty. This party will no longer tolerate slave labor. This party will not accept bioweapons, even COVID or eugenics programs or abortion. This party will not accept political correctness. I mean, dude, I guess where I'm coming from with this is that, Rush Limbaugh really made, headway, dude, with a comment, dude, that he made towards the end of his show yesterday. This country is ready for success. It's ready. And despite, dude, how you plan on engaging that, countries, states, dude, like Alabama, where I'm from, states like Georgia and all that stuff, dude, where we're a Republican majority, we could just tell these people, look, you got 6 months to leave and all that stuff, man, because we don't want you here and all that stuff, man. And then, what we do is we just form our own union of our own values because, dude, the last caller was right. These immigrants that are coming here vote 90% Democrat, dude, because they were told in their UN, slave houses, dude, to hate white people, to sit here and want to take everything from us, dude, that they were going to get everything for free, and they're going to vote themselves a raise every single time. And
they are.
We need to ban immigration in America. We need to ban it, flat out ban it, dude.
It definitely has to be severely limited, no question about it. I mean, there are going to be a few immigrants with necessary skills and talents that would benefit our economy, but just letting everybody on in, they vote themselves bread and circuses until the system breaks down, like ancient Rome did.
I mean, I guess, dude, where I'm trying to, go is how do we separate ourselves from the left, dude? And if it means, dude, that we need to fight, dude, and force, Democrats, dude, out of our states, dude, and all that stuff, we need to do it. We need to freaking do it. We are not going to survive, dude, and all that stuff, dude, because, dude, Rush Limbaugh was right, dude. There's two different ideologies. The Democrat Party, before, Barack Obama and all of them came in, these people, dude, were at least, logical in the standpoint of that they supported capitalism, they supported, laissez-faire capitalism, moderate social change, and a capitalist system, and all that stuff. These people don't even support that, and all that stuff. The Democrats, dude, pretty much, dude, brainwashed and silenced their own people, dude, before they even came out, to the levels, dude, that we see them, because they stopped, supporting, people, who didn't care, dude, or have an opinion, dude, about gay rights, dude. If you didn't have an opinion about gay rights, dude, or if you didn't support it, dude, get out of the Democrat Party. If you're white, dude, and you're working class, dude, we can't support you guys, dude, because it's easier now for us in our unions, dude, to defend minorities, dude, than it is to defend you. Leave our party. We're all in favor of illegal immigrants and all kinds of stuff like that. So they did it to themselves first. They cannibalized these people. And these people, dude, came over. And these people were like people like me, dude. I was originally living in Wisconsin. I moved to Alabama, dude, because I saw 50,000 Trump supporters, dude, in Huntsville. I was like, ooh, this is the city with my values. Now I want to live here. Now what I want to do is I want to keep the people, dude, from California, New York, Illinois, out of my state, dude, and all that stuff, man. And I don't care, dude. If it makes you a xenophobe, dude, because of it, then it is, dude, because these people are taking us over, regardless of the fact that there's nothing we can do about it unless we sit here and get violent. There's nothing we can do, Mike. There's nothing. We have to fight, dude. We have to fight. We have no choice left. I mean, because when the immigrants, dude, that are coming here are voting 90% Democrat, dude, and they're taking their values from their home countries, here, and basically, dude, just discarding, who we are as people. Dude, conservatives don't even have a chance, dude, with any of these people, dude, because they've been demonized so bad, dude, in Europe and everywhere else in the world, dude. Where basically, conservatism started in Europe, but it was refined here in America. And there's no place, dude, else in this country, dude, without this European concept. And if we don't have this European concept here, this country doesn't exist anymore.
Well, did you catch the story earlier where this former French general, head of their armed forces, is saying that because of immigration, France is on the edge of a civil upset? He didn't say civil war, but basically said that because of all the Islamists who poured on in, it's created chaos in the country. We're seeing the same thing start to happen here. And the fact is, if you import the third world into your country, you're importing third world problems. And again, it was a reckless policy, and the Democrats basically sold out our entire country to the immigrants in exchange for a bunch of illegal votes.
I mean, when these people come here, dude, when they come from low trust countries, dude, where they can't, where they have thugs, dude, shaking down, their business owners, dude, don't survive. And that's what's basically happening here. When we allow, dude, the Democrats, all of this stuff, dude, COVID-19, the mask mandates and all that stuff could end today if people would get up off their ass, dude, and walk into the streets, dude, and say no. And all that stuff, enforce it, do something.
Yes.
But no, dude, we got this weak society and we're getting pushed over, dude. And all of us who are strong and who want to fight and who don't care, dude, if the media sits there and says, well, the Republicans, dude, want civil war. Yes, we want civil war. We don't want to sit here and sit here and bow down to this crap, dude, because we know, dude, that, you give a liberal
Well, I want to put a little perspective on this because, everybody's saying the Republicans want civil war, although I've noticed since Biden stole the election, Republicans haven't burned any buildings down yet. But certainly, as we saw in the aftermath of Hillary's defeat, and we've been seeing with all these Antifa and Black Lives Matter riots, it's really the liberals who are pushing for a civil war in this country.
And they're pushing it only so that they can destroy the infrastructure so that the globalists, dude, their masters, dude, can turn around and buy New York up, dude, for a pretty penny, and then basically, dude, get rid of all of them, dude. Because I'm sorry, dude, all these people, dude, with their Black Lives Matter and their Antifa and all that stuff, man, dude, do you really think, dude, that the establishment is going to let these people, dude, survive after they help them get what they want? Hell no.
No. Think about what Hitler did to the brown shirts after he achieved power. He got rid of them all. They became a political embarrassment to him. The same thing's going to happen here. Anyway, Marco, I'm going to let you go now because we've got a lot of calls to get through.
Thank you very much, Michael.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to go to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Hello, Michael. Good day to you. Yeah, Michael, that last caller, Marco, I heard him yesterday and I heard him today. I couldn't get on yesterday, but yeah, I feel his passion, brother. I'm really happy for having a guy like this. I haven't heard him call in the show. I've been listening for years, and I really don't hear him too much calling in your show. I do really miss Miles. I hope Miles calls in today or one day this week or next week. I like hearing Miles. But and Marco's right on the money. I mean, I got to hand it to him. He's hitting a home run out of there. But, Michael, let's get to the real true facts here now.
Yes.
And this is to Marco. You got over 80% of the people in Honduras want to come to the United States illegally, okay? There's a caravan ready for Joe Biden to take office, a bumbling buffoon Biden and Camilla. She'll be running the presidency in a year from now if he does sneak in there, the sneaky little creature that he is, and his son Hunter with his a laptop from hell with all the filth that's on that computer, Mike. But let's get back to now what Marco's saying. And Marco's absolutely right. These people are not coming here to vote for white conservative males or females for that matter. And, Mike, I'm looking at this election and I'm saying, and I called John's show earlier this morning, and I'm like, wait a minute. How many, if Biden won this election, he didn't get as many Jewish votes. He didn't get as many black votes as Trump got. Trump got more votes from the blacks and the Jews in 2016.
Yes.
And white males still are pulling big time for Trump. So, yeah, Mike, like you said, this is a stolen election. They stole it. And the only thing they can use as an excuse, and I know it's not true, is the women. Now, I know Trump had a big proportion, probably at least 49, 50% of the white women. They're not stupid. They don't want an invasion of their country. They don't want their health care skyrocketing and the costs are going out the charts, okay? We got all these Hondurans, Nicaragua. Everybody wants to come here. For what? Because white man's such a racist? The blacks hate us or they get federal government jobs? I told your show, Mike. The only way you're going to win this, take over back this government is all these white people start screaming 33-degree rule. We want these federal government jobs. We want to make $90,000, $80,000 a year in transit or firefighters or whatever municipality you work at. You can get one of these big cushy jobs, water, sewer, or GSA working on the cars. That's how you take the government back because look at who's taking these jobs. You got minority groups. So a lot of them are illegal aliens getting these federal government jobs. And you got white Americans that are struggling. Mike, how is it? I just checked this out, Mike. How is it that California got over 9 million illegals in it? There's over, I saw 128,000 homeless. And it could probably be, I'm sure it's more than that. But there's supposedly recorded 128,000 in California Americans homeless. And I looked up nationwide, Mike. It was 838,000 homeless in the United States in the lower 48. That's not counting Alaska, Hawaii. Okay? That's
and there's a lot of homeless in Hawaii.
Yes. So we'll figure 1 million people are homeless, white and black Americans, right?
Yes.
And Hispanics who are Americans, whatever. But you got illegal aliens coming in here, pouring in here, getting better health care. They get all these good jobs now. They took over the lawn cutting business, the lawn service business in a lot of these cities. I mean, it's unbelievable. And those jobs, believe it or not, pay good money to cut people's yards and do landscaping. Those used to be jobs for Afro-Americans and even white Americans. You know, how many men do you see, Mike, on the highways, building highways? White men are building hiways nowadays. Unless they're
not a lot.
In Montana, Wyoming. You don't see many. So, look, they have totally annihilated us. We can't ever forget China, Mike. How is it when Nixon went in China, ABC, NBC, CBS? Now, hold on, Mike.
No, I got to let you go because we got a bunch of calls and only one segment left here. And I apologize deeply. Call in tomorrow and finish your commentary. We got to take a break for ads. I'm going to try and get all these phone calls in the last segment. I hope. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show, last segment of our program today here. And real quick, we're going to go to Stephen in Ireland. What's on your mind? Stephen, are you there?
I think we lost Stephen.
Okay, we lost Stephen in Ireland, so let's go to Laura in Michigan. Hello, Laura. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Comment on two of the stories that you did. The one about the Gulf War, when they because of the anthrax shot. Anthrax shot came from biotech, which had an office in Michigan, because we demonstrated in front of it. So biotech was sold to, guess what? Moderna. So the people who gave you the anthrax shot, they hurt so many of the military, killed them, and and some people, like take Joyce Riley, she didn't die of cancer from that shot. So 20, 30 years later, you just don't know what these shots are going to do to you.
Yeah, one of the doctors I talked to thinks that the medical situation I've had to deal with this year is an adverse vaccine reaction, and he says it can take years before these things show up.
That's right. That's right. Now, the other story that you touched on was about Brandy, the girl in California who was anti-vax, and that she died.
Yes.
The 9-year-old son found her dead. I have to remind you, I have to tell you, I am a suspicious person. If you remember, we've got 2 anti-vax shows on Saturday night here on RBN. One was Vaccine Free America with Sally Accordia. She died unexpectedly. So I've got a suspicious mind about that. So
well, this is the time to be suspicious of things like that.
Huh?
Anyway, listen.
Anti-vax activists, keep your heads up.
Okay,
careful.
well, we got to be cautious now. Laura, I'm going to let you...
My third...
Real quick.
I have one more thing. Okay, I just wonder how our Jewish lesbian attorney general here in Michigan is going to answer the Texas lawsuit. I'm anxious to hear about that.
Okay, well, we'll probably get that in the next day or two. Laura, I'm going to let you go. We're going to go to David in Texas. Hello, David. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. This is Miles.
Oh, okay. We lost David. This is Miles. Okay, Miles, what's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say good call by Joe and by Tom. I couldn't agree more with Marco. And I wanted to run something by you, and I'll get the response from you. What if we implemented some type of regulation, law, rule, whereas any corruption that was found, that district lost their congressional representative? If there was any misappropriations in the elections.
Well, I think it's a good idea. Getting it passed is going to be a bit of a trick here. The problem we're dealing with this election is the existing laws were simply not being followed. And that's become a big problem with issues like immigration, where all these sanctuary cities, they're all in violation of Title VIII. And unfortunately, this does get back to Donald Trump, who, as the chief executive...
I think as a penalty... as a penalty to corruption, here's your congressional representative or one congressional representative, one Senate representative, and I bet you they start cleaning this up a little bit when they think they're not going to have any say-so in any type of funding, any type of regulations, laws.
Okay, Miles, I got to let you go. We're at the end of the show here. Thank you for the call. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.